So dear friends, I'm happy to speak about the 2020 vintage. One more good vintage, we'll discuss it. And we are so sorry that you cannot join us for the second year in a row. And you will miss what has been, in my long experience, the best trio of vintages, 18, 19, 20.
The winter was quite wet, but then, as it usually happens in the southwest, we had a beautiful window, which was actually quite long, from the end of February until the first week of April. And that window allowed a very homogeneous and very fast and slightly early bud break. Then we saw the rain come back at the beginning of April. We saw an extremely rapid growth. Those conditions of warm and humid environments remained until June. The month of June was fairly warm, and we were lucky to have a beautiful flower. In Saint-Emilion, the big difference from Pomerol, it's the water reserve. The vineyard of Bélair-Monange is entirely on that beautiful block of limestone, which retains the water and sort of gives it back by retrocapillarity during the summer. So when we started harvesting in Saint-Emilion, we harvested actually in 3 periods. We started by the young vine. Those young vines, which usually bring the creaminess in the wine, are usually quite sensitive to over maturity, so we didn't want to pick them too late. Then we had a second part of the harvest where we harvested the slopes, those south-facing slopes, which had been in the sun, bathing in the sun for so many weeks. And then we finished by the older parcels, which are on the plateau, on the cooler part of the vineyard. And that rhythm was to allow us to have that ripeness in the fruit, yet maintain the freshness of the wine and the minerality, which is the signature of Bélair-Monange.
But it's a fact, you see. And that 20, it has a unique character because it can be fresh and perfectly ripe, which usually is a difficult combination. So that wine, I drink it, you see, just now, it's so good. The aromatic palette goes from sherry, red sherry, to cassis. It does not go back down to black fruit. But it's like a crystal, you see. So it has a purity which I think we cannot find in many other places.
So in Pomerol, we are very lucky to have in general the blend of 2 great soils, clay and gravel. The clay is crucial, and especially in a vintage like 2020, because it retains the humidity, it retains the water, and allows the vines during the summer to find enough resources underground. The gravel brings the heat to the cluster and therefore will have an effect on the suavity of the wine. Since the maturity during the summer was quite slow and the clusters were full, we have a good level of acidity. The wines of La Fleur-Pétrus this year have an unbelievable complexity, and that is really the signature of this wine this year. You will find in La Fleur-Pétrus both notes of licorice, of violet, those sort of warm notes, quite a lot of blue fruit, there's blackberries as well. It's the sensuality defines the wines of La Fleur-Pétrus this year. Château Trotanoy this year is a typical Trotanoy in a sense where it's quite compact. The structure is present, there's a lot of fruit. At this stage, usually for Château Trotanoy, it's almost like a rock, it's an impenetrable bowl of ink. almost like a block. It's a very armed wine.
It's so intense that early on it's like a blow, you know, but it's so impressive. First, Rosanna is very small. It's 4.5 hectares, very consistent. 2/3 of the vines are been planted in 56 and 57. That makes it probably, in terms of average age, one of the very oldest vineyards in Pomerol. People love it. It's a well-kept secret because it's so small. It gives a physical pleasure. I have been lucky enough to know trios of quality. Tell you that 18, 19, 20 is the best trio ever.